You're listening to the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman, episode 116. Hi and welcome to this episode of this podcast. It's a solo one with me, and today we're going to talk about something that comes up a lot in my groups. So I'm obviously, I run the Small and Supercharged Facebook group, the free one, and also the two membership groups, the extra group and the mastermind group. And I do obviously get involved with all of them on different levels. And I'm always keeping an eye on the things that are kind of causing concern, for want of a better expression, and people are asking about. Because if people are asking about them, it's a really great opportunity for me to deliver a bit of knowledge in podcast form that may help you. So today it's all about brand ambassadors, and I've done basically a brand ambassador checklist. So this is aimed at brands, but it's obviously got a huge amount of information in there for people who would like to be brand ambassadors for the brands, because all these things are things that you as a brand ambassador or a potential brand ambassador can influence, and they're things that I am assessing when I'm looking at whether someone is a good fit for another brand when it comes to being a brand ambassador, because I do get asked about this a lot, and people ask about it a lot in the group. Quite rightly, because when you work with the right influencer, when you have a good brand ambassador, it can really change the game for so many brands. It can really elevate them. It can get them in front of a different audience. It can be insanely good. But when you get the wrong person, and that's not a criticism of the ambassador, but when you just get someone who isn't a particularly good fit for you, then people feel a bit cross. No one really benefits from the partnership. And you've lost your product, maybe money as well, and got a bit of a sour taste, and the ambassador's not thrilled either. So this is going to be called a brand ambassador checklist, and I think it is a good one, but I would say that. So, as I said, this is written kind of from a brand point of view, but I want you, if you are an influencer and you'd like to work with brands, just think about the tips I'm giving here and how you can make what I'm saying really work for you, because there's a lot of opportunity here. So, brand ambassador checklist. Before we even get into the checklist, follow whoever you're thinking of being a brand ambassador for you. Make sure you are following them. You are seeing their updates. You are seeing what they post, because actually that'll make the rest of this a breeze. But follow them on all the platforms that you know that they're on. It's a really great start. So these are things about what to ask and what to research, what to note down, whether you physically write it down or things to note in your head when you are deciding whether somebody has got potential to be a really good brand ambassador for you. So the first thing is have a look at what platforms they're on. So are they on platforms where you want to grow, or are the platforms that are really good for you they're not very active on? This isn't necessarily negative. If you are massive on Instagram and they're massive on YouTube, and you don't, the vice versa doesn't have a presence on each one, that could actually be quite a positive thing, because you are helping grow on a different channel. But again, it's just worth throwing into the mix. So which platforms are they on? Do they blog? Do they have their own blog as well, or are they just on social media? Again, this isn't necessarily a negative thing, but this is just ways that you can assess them, and you can look at how they are on their blog. You can look at the kind of content they put out on their blog. You can probably also find where they are on social from their blog. And again, it's just something to note. Next thing, have a look at the numbers. Don't actually pay attention to this, but the other 3 points here, it's a piece of the jigsaw, it's not the whole jigsaw. Have a look at the numbers, write down the numbers for each platform, keep them in mind. You might also find from this which platforms your potential brand ambassador is the strongest on. But as I said, don't see the numbers as the only thing here. It's a part of the puzzle, but it's not the big puzzle. Because what I also want you to look at on all the platforms that your potential brand ambassador is on is I want you to look at their consistency. How often do they post? Are they showing up regularly? Now, if they've got 5 different platforms, for them to show up consistently on all 5 is a big ask. But if they have got 2 key platforms and they're showing up regularly on those, and they're trying on the other 3, I wouldn't hold that against them whatsoever, because we all know how much time social media takes up. But if they have got a key platform, their biggest platform, or the platform you can see they're working hard on, brilliant. But just have a look and see where they are showing up consistently, because they're likely to be the platforms where you, if you did work with them, are going to see the biggest presence, unless they change their strategy. So look at their consistency, look at where they're showing up, look at how often they're showing up as well. Now look at their engagement and look at the engagement rate, which you can do by looking at it's more tricky if you've got your likes hidden, much more tricky, because if your account doesn't show likes on other accounts, it's much harder to work out the engagement rate, because you can't use how many people have liked a post as part of that sum. So you may have to go a little bit on your gut on this. You can see obviously that others have liked, but in addition to looking at the engagement rate, look at how people engage. And this is quite good. This is an important point for me as well, because when we actually do the sum connected to engagement rate, we look at things like likes, shares, saves, comments, all these things. And then that is divided by your following to get your percentage engagement rate. Don't think that this is going to be big, because it isn't. I mean that in the nicest possible way. A good engagement rate on Instagram, I believe, is around the 5-6% mark. So keep that in mind, because I had someone who was really disappointed that they weren't at sort of 50% engagement, and I said that would just be a miracle. Facebook's lower than that. So that doesn't mean that people can't deliver above the engagement rate, absolutely, but I'm just trying to manage expectations here on what is to be expected. But the engagement rate, the engagement point of engagement, I guess, that I'm really, really interested in is the comments and how that potential ambassador engages with those comments. Because if I'm working with somebody and they're saying, this is the best thing since sliced bread, I love this thing, and people are commenting going, oh, that's really cool, what colour did you get? Oh, that's really, really cool, what size did you get? Oh, that's really cool, how did you find that the fit was correct? And they are just being ignored. From a brand's point of view, you've potentially got however many people asking questions about your product, considering a purchase, and then not being responded to. So, and I'm not saying, they post at 8 o'clock, at 8:01, they've got comments and they haven't replied, and you strike them off your list. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying look at how they engage with the comments. If you're looking at massive accounts, you're unlikely to see a reply to every comment if there's a lot of comments there, because there's just not enough hours in the day. But I would like to see some form of response or some form of engagement on the comments if I would be looking to invest in somebody in that way. I would want to see that they were aware of the comments, they were keeping an eye on the comments, also so they could just nip any spam ones in the bud. But I would also want to be looking and going, actually, yeah, that person is actively selling. That person's actively helping that brand, that post, to go to the next level by engaging. So look at the how and look at the rate, 100%. Look at them together. And actually that bit is important. I'm not saying, and again, we're talking about all of these are a bit of the puzzle. So if you lose a piece or one piece isn't brilliant, it can still work as a puzzle. But if you can get all these pieces in little parts, brilliant. So look at the engagement rate and look at how they engage. Look at whether they give good replies, genuine replies. Again, I wouldn't be penalising someone if they've got a massive account and they only engage on the first however many comments. That's life, and they've got other things to do as well. But I would want to have some form of engagement there. And also have a look at the quality of the content. So what content are they putting out on their platforms? Are you happy with this, and does it align with your brand? So if you're looking at younger ambassadors, they may just have a large following and an engaged following because these are friends of theirs from school or things like that. But if you are a professional brand and you're looking to engage a professional kind of audience, you want to make sure the person that is representing you also mirrors these qualities. And one easy way to do that is through the quality of the content. So that means a nicely taken photograph, not necessarily a professional one, but one where the light is working in their favour, one that isn't blurry, one that is sharp, one that isn't over-edited, over-filtered. things that I think reduce the quality or reduce the feel of it. Again, with videos, can you hear the audio, or are they all really crackly and sound dodgy? Because again, think about the quality of the content that's been putting out there and whether or not your brand aligns with that. Even if someone has got a blog but it's full of spelling mistakes and it doesn't make any sense, they've got lots of followers, they post consistently and they reply to comments. Actually, if the quality of what they're putting out there isn't good enough for you, they might still not be a good person to align with for your brand. Next thing is kind of the next level, is who do they work with already? If they do it with other brands already, do any of them conflict with you and what you do? Because if they do, they might not be the brand ambassador for you, or they might not be the brand ambassador for you at this time. Do you like what the potential brand ambassador has done for the people that they already work with? Are you happy with what they've created? Can you see how they have told a story around a product, or how they have gone over and above to promote it, or how they've promoted it in a really clever, different way? Can you see that, and what do you think about that? Did you know that they were working with all the brands they're working with, or did you have to do a lot of digging to find out? Now, it might be that you missed an initial post announcing a sponsorship, absolutely. But when you know, can you see that link there? Are there brands that appear regularly? Are there, in the content, in the pictures, are the brands in them? What are you happy with what they're doing? And did you know that they were doing it? What content do they create for these brands? And is that something that you would like to happen for you? So you might find that some brand ambassadors are really, really into the video, and a lot of their content is video. Others are much more into still imagery, and some mix up the two. So whatever they favour, does that align with what you're hoping will happen for you too? Is it labelled correctly? This is something I'm going to do an additional podcast about in the not too distant future, about the labelling and how anyone who's given product for free needs to be saying they've got the product for free. So a brand ambassador who receives product for free needs to be labelling their content to make it clear that there is a commercial relationship with that brand. Whether they get given the product or not, or whether they get money as well, it needs to be clear that there is a connection with that brand, so their fans and followers are not misled and don't think that something was purchased and then raved about versus being given and raved about. From my point of view, if I see someone has been given something, I either believe what they've said or I don't. But as somebody who I follow, I would like to think that I believe them. If I don't believe them, I probably will stop following them, because I won't believe anything they say. So I don't think it detracts from the post if you properly declare it, and you must properly declare it if you are a brand ambassador or if you're an influencer. It's important that you let people know the terms at which you've been given a product. It's really important. But again, it's useful to see if they are declaring it properly, because it is important. Now, taking a bigger overview of their whole account and what they're about, do your values align with theirs? And this might seem a bit left field, but for example, if your brand is anti-shooting, anti-game shooting, and their brand is massively pro it, or you as a person aren't particularly supportive of that sport and their brand is pro it, or vice versa, if you are really pro something like that and they are obviously anti it, your brands aren't necessarily going to be rubbing each other up the right way, because your audiences, some of these things will be really key issues for them. Shooting is a bit of a random one, but I'm trying to think of one that is a bit more contentious, one that people could have a strong feeling about. Because if you've got fundamentally different views, your audiences may also have those fundamentally different views. And that doesn't mean that you have to be identical at all, but there are some issues that will be big issues for you, and big issues for your followers, and big issues for them and their followers. And these more emotive ones are the ones to look for. if when you're looking at their feed, because you're following them now, you see that they've got a lot of content that you know will jar against your followers and their beliefs, that is probably a big old red flag there saying, they might be fabulous, they might be lovely people, they might buy from you, brilliant, but the next step could rub their followers up the wrong way and could also upset yours too, and you do not want to do that. But through following them and keeping an eye on what they're doing, you're going to be able to see that quite clearly. So that's also connected to, do you complement each other and their brand image? So do you complement each other? I think that really is covered in that one actually. And their brand image is a bit of a broader one. So look at everything that they do, look at their feed. Are you happy with their brand image? So think about their brand slightly away from them almost, and think about the key bits that are popping out from their content. So do they like a drink? This isn't necessarily a negative thing, but do they like a drink? Is that a key part of their brand image? And are you happy promoting somebody who that is a key part of their brand image? There's no right or wrong answer here, unless actually you're a brand who caters for people under the legal age. That might be something to just be aware of. But for example, and I'm not just talking about the odd glass or something here and there, I'm talking about, is it a big part of their content? Another thing could be how they show themselves online. Do they show themselves in ways that you're happy with your brand being associated with? And it's difficult to actually talk about this without sounding negative, and I don't mean that at all, because for everybody out there on social, there are brands that are the perfect fit for them and brands that aren't. And when you look at your values and your brand image and their values and their brand image, you could both be amazing, incredible rock stars, but you just don't quite align. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's important moving forward to make sure everyone's singing off the same hymn sheet, that your values, their brand image, your brand image align. Again, drinking is such a, I feel like I've really just gone for the obvious ones here, but there's going to be quite a lot of things there. And you'll get it when you're scrolling through someone's feed. You'll see things and you'll go, ooh, And it might be that you, from a personal point of view, completely love that content, but think of your brand as well. Think of your target market. Think of your customers. Think about your brand image that you've nurtured, and think about whether it aligns with them. So there's going to be loads of things like that. Again, drinking was just one that sprang to my mind quite quickly, probably because the pubs have just opened in the UK. But again, it's just things to keep in mind. It isn't necessarily a no, but it's something to just be aware of. Also, any of these little niggles, don't ignore them. Note them, think on them, watch for further development of it in their account, because it might just be like a one-off and you can go, oh well, we all have one-offs, or it might be something that's more of a recurring theme, which then could pose a potential issue for you. So let's say all of these pieces of the puzzle are looking really solid. You've got, a good half of a jigsaw now, and you're going to approach them and you're going to speak to them moving forward, which is an exciting stage to be at. And I would really advise at this stage to be open, honest, and upfront. And that's why on this part of the checklist, we've got very obviously, what do they want from you? Do they want product? Do they want paying? Do they want product and paying? What do they want from you? And is that something that you can achieve? Because if they want paying a squillion pounds a month and you don't have the budget for that, again, you just say, okay, that's not quite where we're at the moment. Thanks so much. I'm really excited to see your progress and see your development. But you're not wasting anyone's time by being very, very clear about what do they want from you. Also, do they want support beyond product and money? Do they want you to shout them out on their social media because maybe you're stronger on areas than they are, like we talked about earlier? What do they want from you? And connected, obviously, what can you offer them? And does this align with what they want? You might want to give them product and they might say, yeah, but for my size of following and the kind of content I want to create for you, I'm also going to need some financial reimbursement there because of the time it takes me to create the content. I think we need to become a lot more comfortable with paying our I say brand ambassadors, our sponsored people, our brand ambassadors, our influencers, when they create good content, and I'm not just talking about a quick snap here and there, I'm talking about when they are creating blogs, writing blogs, having professional shoots done, when they're investing that much time and money themselves, I think we need to be aware of their power when they've got, particularly have a big engaged following, their power and their potential reach from what they've created and what they've put their time, energy and money into could well be far in excess of the product value that they've been given. I'm not saying it always is, because of course it depends on the product value and it depends on what the influencer is putting into it. But I don't think at this stage in the game we should be shying away from having that discussion, because you can either do it or you can't do it. If they do want money as well, it also gives you more chance to speak to them about what kind of guaranteed content you can get each month, and also if you can use that content yourself. I would of course be having this discussion with whatever you give a brand ambassador. I'd be asking what they're likely to be able to generate each month and if you could use that content. But I think when you pay, that is much more of a job, and therefore you tend to find that the potential brand ambassadors, the influencers you work with, can then allocate that time as a job essentially, rather than trying to fit it in around everything else, because you're paying for their time. So they couldn't earn more money by doing something else. You've paid for that project essentially. So think about it. Think about how they can promote your brand, and also if they want you to promote theirs. And again, these are all kind of negotiation points. If they really, really want you to promote theirs and you want them to promote yours, they might almost cancel each other out in a kind of negotiation, because you're both doing the same thing. And brands can do that. Brands can also be influencers in terms of they can also promote the people that work with them and introduce them more to their audience, which may allow them to sell more books, sell more courses, book more this, that and the other. It can be a really positive and encouraging relationship there. But how can they promote your brand? And I would be asking them what would fit with them. How can they promote the brand? What ideas do they have? Because if they've already nurtured this following that you're really interested in getting in front of, they will know what's going to work for their audience. And you saying, oh yeah, I know you normally do vlogs, but I want you to do this, this and this. And them going, well, that is just not going to work for my audience. Then that's not going to work for their audience. And therefore you've lost a lot of the value that's in that relationship. So ask them about ideas to promote your brand. What ideas do they have? What ideas do you have? Do these connect? Do these align? Of course, you can go down the route of like X number of posts a month or Y videos a month or whatever. But also, would they come to events? Would they run an event with you? Could you run a competition with them where someone wins something from them? Ask them specifically. Ask how they can promote your brand, what you would like from them, and chat. Also on the checklist, frequency. How often can you expect this content? Is it a once in a blue moon? Is it a once a week, once a month? How often can you expect this content? Again, you want to be making sure that people are, you're getting whatever you've agreed. But I would also say that sometimes it's important to be a little bit flexible here. So if something's happened in their world and it would be really odd for them to be talking about your product when something's happened that they need to talk about, show a bit of leniency here. If something big is happening in the world and your post was scheduled for Wednesday and it's just going to jar horribly, move it. Work with them. This is the key when you work with a brand ambassador. Working with is really, really important. Also ask about whether you can use the content too, because that could be a nice way of helping to stretch their content and making sure that your audience also see it, thinking they may have missed it. But if they've done a brilliant TikTok, a brilliant video, had a gorgeous shoot with somebody, it would be nice to be able to integrate that content into your own social media if that's going to work for them. And then throughout this whole process as well, think about how you've communicated. If you've been happy with how quickly they've responded, how they've responded to questions, things like that. And that all helps to form your basis for whether or not that is something you want to take forward and pursue. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop brand ambassador checklist for you there. And I think they're all really valid points and things that can actually really help to make sure that you are finding the right people to work with, and that they are also feeling valued and like they're really contributing towards the overall cause as well. So now you've listened to all of that, I have actually done you this brand ambassador checklist as a download. So go over to my website, riafreemanpr.co.uk/blog, and look at today's blog. At the very bottom of it, at the bottom of the show notes, there is going to be a download, and that will be the brand ambassador checklist with loads of space for you to get creative all over it. Go and download it and let me know if it's been useful for you. I'm just going to give a little shout out to the Social Supercharge Rider course, because if you're in the equestrian space and you are looking to be a brand ambassador, you're looking to grow your account, you're looking to become an influencer, you're looking to attract new rides, more work, anything like that, the Social Supercharge Riders course could be a really good one for you. It's a digital course, it's a study at your own pace course, it is all online, there are loads of content ideas, there's lots of how, whys and everything else in there as well. There's also a really, really good section full of discounts. There is a rider group where we're having monthly lives with amazing people I get to work with. It's just really cool. And all of that is over at riafreemanpr.co.uk. Thanks so much for listening to this week's podcast, and we will catch up really, really soon. Have a great day.